Here's a story which is somewhat similar to the other stories, but this story is it happened 20 years ago, maybe even more. So in 770 in the Rebbe's synagogue, so it's very common they make what's called forbringans, especially in the nighttime. And boys sit together and they talk and they talk. Sometimes they drink a little bit of vodka and they talk about godliness and stories about rabbis and stories about the Rebbe and what the Rebbe wants from us and demands from us and to improve ourselves, etc. Anyway, one boy stood up and he told the story. And he said, I have a very interesting story, miracle story about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the story is like this. There was once a boy, his name was Yoni, Israeli, from a totally not religious, anti-religious family. Anti-religious family. And he got a terrible disease. And he went to the doctors, and the doctor said, well, they can, perform radiation treatments on him and chemotherapy and this, but it's not going to help. And the boy will just feel sick all the time. He'll feel miserable. The doctor said, my advice is, and you can go to other doctors if you want, my advice is to make the last months of your son's life as pleasant as possible and go and take a trip around the world. See things, travel. So that's what they decided to do. The boy was like, 15 years old or whatever. And so they did. So they traveled. They took a trip. The parents had money. They took a trip. They went to Spain. They went to Rome. They went to this, to Russia, here, seeing all these wonderful sights. Amazing, the mountains and river falls and rivers and waterfalls. And this is anyway. Then they came to New York. Oh, this is very impressive. New York compared to Tel Aviv. The big skyscrapers and cars and everything. And come to New York, and as they're going, there's one of the Chabad, what they call tanks. They bought like these what is it, cabin trailers? What are they called? Cabins? I can't remember. Anyway, there's campers. One of the campers, and they would decorate it on the outside with tefillin and pictures of tefillin and this, and they would usually put a music on the top, a loudspeaker with music, Chassidic music, happy music, and they would go on the street and ask people, if you're Jewish, would you like to put on tefillin? So they're walking down the streets of Manhattan, and the Chabad boy standing in the street asking people that maybe could be Jewish, that maybe it could be that they're Jewish. They look and asking, excuse me, are you Jewish? Are you? So they asked him, are you Jewish? And the boy said, what is he doing? What is this, Daddy? And the father said, let's just go. These are these, religious freaks. Who needs them? He says, no, I really want to know what's going on. They look happy, they're dancing around. He said, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. Meanwhile, the fellow was standing on the street, hears them speaking Hebrew. He says, oh, you're Israeli. Come put on tefillin. So he said, no, I don't want to. So the boy says, what does that mean, Daddy? What does he want? What's everybody doing? He sees other people putting on tefillin. And the boy had never done this. You should know that now it's very common putting on tefillin in Israel. But 20, 30 years ago, it was not common at all. It was a rarity. And especially people standing on the streets asking you to put on tefillin. It was like unheard of, So he says, well, let's do it. So his father said he doesn't want to, but suddenly he realized, listen, this is my son, and the whole thing is supposed to be fun. And when he said he wanted to see the crocodiles and he wants to see the fire-eating man and man-eating fire, I took him, did whatever he wanted to. So why not this? So he said, okay. So he goes, he says, put on the film. So he says, no, that's okay, I already did. So his son says, come on, do it, Daddy. Here, this person is doing it. So the boys are very nice, Chabad are very nice boys, and they're friendly, and they're genuinely friendly, and they're interested, and they're happy. And so the father puts on tefillin. So he starts asking, why are you here? This is no. So the boy says, we're here because I'm really sick. And we're making a tour of the world. with my parents. So the boy says, really sick, what do you have? And he says what he's got. And so he said, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. He said, have you thought about going to Lubavitcher Rebbe? And the boy doesn't, what do you mean? What does that mean? So the young man, the Chabad man, is talking to the father. He says, listen, there's a great rabbi. How much money does he take? How much money does he want? He doesn't want money. He's a great rabbi. And your son said you tried everything else. Why don't you go? He's a very nice person. And even if you don't get anything out of it, it's another experience. You're coming in for experience. This is an experience. Okay, so the son says, let's go. So he forces his father. And the mother is also starting to get convinced because she's desperate. She wants to save her son. She's going to do anything she can. So the father says, okay, all right, we'll go. And he not only has to go, he has to enjoy it, right? He has to enjoy it also. He can't just do what they want. It has to be like an enjoyable experience. So they go, anyway, they get Yechidus. This must have been maybe even more. This must have been like, maybe even 30, 40, 50 years ago. Who knows how long? I mean, it's hard to believe that Gimel Tamuz was 30 years ago. But anyway, so they got into the Rebbe. They got Yechidus into the Rebbe. They went there alone. So meanwhile, the father, he's going to see this rabbi, and so he brings some of the reports, the doctor's opinions. So he brings to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says to him, he looks at all the papers, and the Rebbe says, I don't think it's that serious. The Rebbe says, I don't think it's that serious. So he says, but Rebbe, all the doctors, the experts, this professor, this, and Professor, Grois, and Professor Klein, and Professor this, and Weiss, and Professor Schwartz, and Professor, all the professors, they'll say, the Rebbe said, okay, they can say what they want, but I don't really think it's that serious. I think the big problem is you just have to start eating kosher. So the father looks at the Rebbe like, where, obviously, this man, he doesn't know anything about anything except for, the solution to everything is just keep kosher and pray to the Lord and everything. And so he wanted to ask the Rebbe, have you ever heard of, penicillin? Do you know anything at all? How in the world do you possibly think that keeping kosher is going to, but he doesn't say it. He doesn't say anything. He just looks around, looks at his wife, and he has to have a positive experience here, right? Because he's coming to give his son a positive experience. So he can't start yelling, you old, but you're old-fashioned people, He says, oh, okay, good. That's very nice. Yes. You keep kosher. I'm telling you, the Rebbe says, I think that's the only problem. Just keep kosher. How much money do you want? No, I'm not going to have to pay anything. Okay, next person comes in. So he goes outside and he's like the father is blazing mad, but he doesn't show it in front of his son. As soon as he and his wife are alone with their son, went to the bathroom or something, he says, what a charlatan, what a faker. I don't believe it. What are we going to, this guy lives like 2,000 years ago. He even he knows how to read and write. Who knows if he knows how to write? Maybe only Hebrew. It's written in English. He didn't understand anything. So his wife said, I think maybe he's got a point. What? He said, what? Keeping kosher? You know how many people keep kosher, don't keep kosher, and they're healthy. What's keeping kosher got to do with anything? Anyway, his wife said, listen, we have absolutely nothing to lose, and we have everything to gain. What are we going to go? We're going to buy kosher food. It's going to cost us a little money. We're lacking money. So she goes to the grocery store, forces her husband to go with her, and they buy only kosher food. And she says, that's it. From now on, we're not going to eat. We're not going to eat, not kosher anymore. We're going to eat only kosher. And they have the whole week they eat kosher. And then somehow maybe they talked to some religious person. I don't know who it was, but they discovered that, that if you cook food on Shabbat, then it's not kosher. They had a nice room in a hotel with a kitchen in it and everything. So she found out, she called up somewhere, how do I cook kosher food? Or maybe they ate by somebody's family. I don't know. Anyway, so they kept kosher for 1 week. The father kept kosher 1 week, which wasn't that difficult. It meant that he couldn't eat lobsters anymore or something like that. It wasn't that. So and his son started to feel better. And he started to feel better. And he couldn't believe it. And sure enough, they kept kosher for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And his son eventually got cured totally. Was told he went to the doctors. Doctors didn't understand what's going on, and he got cured. So he got better. Okay, how does this work out? How does it figure out? Don't ask me. I don't understand it. But if the Rebbe would have said, the way that you can solve all the problems, let's say in Poland, is by washing your little toe, is if he said it, then it's going to work. The Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that if you make Chabad houses in the world, then the Iron Curtain is going to fall. All the Jews are going to get out, and it worked. And it worked. Had no connection to work. In any case, this thing worked, and the child became better. And he became healthy. And everybody said that's a pretty amazing story. And the boy telling the story said, and that child is me. That person is me. I'm Yoni. I'm the one that had the whole story. And his parents became, observant afterwards, more observant. For sure, they ate kosher. They had to eat kosher. So it just shows the story that if you listen to what the Rebbe says, even though it doesn't make any sense at all, that there's always good results. And that's why we need Mashiach now. That's why we're learning these classes in the morning, that by means of learning Chassidut, it will help to Otimar, to bring the Mashiach now. Have a good day. Shalom Ubracha.